Part 1. The Prayer for Light. You asked for light. You whispered it quietly, maybe without even meaning it. You wanted peace, healing, clarity. But no one ever told you that light doesn't arrive gently. It doesn't knock politely and ask to come in. It shatters. It breaks. It tears down everything that stands between you and truth. Because truth can't fit inside walls built from fear. And so, when you asked for light, what you really asked for was the end of your old self. You asked to be undone. You invited a storm into your home and called it prayer. You didn't know it yet, but the moment you said, "Show me," the universe began to move, quietly at first. Subtle shifts, strange coincidences, people leaving, doors closing. And then, like thunder, everything started to crack. Rumi said, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." Most people hear that and think it's poetry. It's not. It's a warning. Because the kind of light that changes you forever doesn't illuminate. It burns. It finds the lies you told yourself to survive. It crawls into the hidden corners of your soul, where you buried what you didn't want to feel, and then it starts breaking everything that isn't real. There's a moment before the breaking when everything feels calm, almost too calm. The air is thick, the silence heavy, like the moment before lightning hits. You can sense something coming, but you can't stop it. That's what divine love feels like before it arrives. Unbearable stillness. The kind that feels almost cruel. You try to pray harder, think clearer, fix yourself faster, but nothing moves, because this isn't the kind of light you control. This is the kind that controls you. You don't realize it yet, but asking for light is the most dangerous prayer you can make. Because God doesn't send light to comfort you. He sends it to expose you. He doesn't patch up the cracks. He widens them. Every prayer for peace summons a wave of destruction, because everything untrue must go before truth can take root. Every help me is really an invitation for loss. Every heal me is a surrender to the burning. And yet, somewhere deep in the middle of that chaos, there's a whisper, faint but undeniable. Trust it. The breaking isn't punishment. It's response. You are being answered in a language older than words, older than pain. When the walls start to tremble, it isn't hell arriving. It's heaven trying to enter. But you resist. Of course you do. The human instinct is to hold on, to cling to the familiar, even when it hurts. You tell yourself it's not the right time, not the right way, not the right kind of love. You bargain with the storm, thinking maybe you can survive the light without being changed by it. But love has no patience for cages. The divine has no interest in polite transformation. God doesn't enter through open doors. He enters through collapse. The invitation isn't written in words. It's written in surrender. And when he comes, it feels like loss, like confusion, like everything you built your life on is dissolving. But look closer. Beneath the wreckage, something gleams, a golden shimmer under the dust. That's the first sign, light trying to find its way in. So if your world feels like it's falling apart, maybe it's not punishment at all. Maybe it's the answer to your oldest prayer, the one you forgot you made when you said, "Show me the truth." Because the truth doesn't come quietly. It comes like fire through stone. It comes like love disguised as breaking, and somewhere, through the noise, through the fear, through the dust of everything you thought you were, you'll remember. You asked for this. You asked for light. And light is never gentle. Part 2. When the walls begin to crack. At first, it feels like something small. A shift in the air, a tremor in your chest. You tell yourself it's nothing. You've been here before. You've survived worse. But this time, it's different. The familiar weight in your chest isn't just sadness, it's pressure. Like the walls of your heart are holding something too vast, too alive, too divine. You can almost hear it, the faint crack of a structure beginning to fail. The life you built starts to shake. Not violently, not yet. It begins in whispers. The job that once gave you pride feels empty. The relationship that once felt safe feels hollow. The goals you once chased now hang in the air like ghosts. Everything still looks the same from the outside, but something underneath is shifting. Dangerously, beautifully, irreversibly. You try to hold it together. You tell yourself it's just a phase, a mood, a bad season. You double down. You plan harder, work longer, pray louder. You patch the cracks. You pretend you don't hear the sound. But the sound is growing. It's the echo of something sacred coming closer. And it doesn't care about your control. Rumi said, "Don't turn away. Keep your gaze on the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you." But it's hard to keep looking when the bandage starts to bleed. You were ready for enlightenment, not for loss. You wanted clarity, not collapse. And yet, the cracks widen, the sound deepens. The floor beneath you begins to shift like sand. Then comes the moment you can't ignore. The first real break. The call you didn't expect. The door that slams. The silence where love used to be. The plans that dissolve overnight. You fall to your knees, and it's not prayer anymore. It's disbelief. You whisper, "Why?" As if the universe owes you an explanation. But no answer comes. Only that same unrelenting pressure from within, pushing, demanding, breaking. This is the holy violence of transformation. You think God is far away, but he's never been closer. He's in the breaking. He's in the pieces. He's in the very thing you think is killing you. He's trying to enter, but the walls are thick, and you've spent a lifetime fortifying them. So he pushes harder. He lets the cracks multiply. He lets the life you built begin to crumble, not to destroy you, but to make room for what is real. The light doesn't knock. It insists. It forces its way in because love can't stand being kept outside. The pain you feel isn't cruelty. It's entry. The discomfort isn't punishment. It's presence. Every fracture is a doorway. Every loss is an invitation. You're not being abandoned. You're being opened. And yet, the human heart doesn't understand that language at first. It only knows how to grieve. You cry. You scream. You resist. You clutch the old life like a child holding the broken pieces of a toy, begging for it to work again. But the more you hold on, the sharper the edges become. Until one day, you finally drop them. Not because you're wise, but because you're tired. That's when the first real silence comes. Not peace. Silence. The kind that fills the room after the shouting stops. The kind that feels endless. You don't yet know it, but that silence is sacred. It's the space between destruction and creation. It's the breath before rebirth. The cracks are not your punishment. They're your rescue. The sound of your life falling apart is not death. It's the sound of space being made for God to enter. The walls were never meant to stand forever. They were meant to hold you until you were strong enough to let them fall. And now, as the dust rises and the echoes fade, one truth begins to form beneath the ruin. What breaks you is also what frees you. Part 3. The sound of breaking. It doesn't happen all at once. It builds. A pressure you can't name becomes unbearable. The weight of everything you tried to control, everything you thought you could keep intact, finally gives way. And then, the sound, the breaking. It's not loud like thunder. It's deeper, older. It sounds like something ancient tearing open inside your soul. You fall, not gracefully, not poetically. You collapse. You don't know what to pray for anymore because the words don't fit. Every sentence feels false. Every truth you thought you knew slips through your fingers. The person you used to be begins to die, and it's not peaceful. It's raw. It's chaos. You thought enlightenment would be calm. You thought awakening would be gentle. But this feels like being struck by lightning and reborn in the same moment. You shake. You cry. You lose your breath. The world becomes too bright, too loud, too real. It feels like you're being erased, and maybe you are. Because before the divine can write, it must first clear the page. You look around and see nothing left to hold on to. The people you counted on are gone. The dreams you built have turned to ash. Even your faith, that last fragile thread, feels like it's slipping. You want to scream, but your voice has turned into light. It burns your throat to speak. And in that silence, where everything you loved has fallen apart, something begins to move. Not outside, inside. It's strange, but within the violence of the breaking, there's a rhythm. Beneath the chaos, a pulse, a kind of sacred heartbeat, pounding from the center of the storm. You realize it's not the sound of death. It's the sound of space being made. The universe isn't taking from you. It's carving, sculpting, creating. Every crash, every collapse, every scream is part of a pattern too vast to understand. Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." But he could have said, "The wound is where God speaks." Because this is not punishment. This is conversation. Each crack is a syllable. Each fall, a word. Together, they form the language of transformation. The breaking is not destruction. It's communication. It's God speaking in the only way strong enough to be heard through your defenses. You once prayed for light. You thought it would be warm, soft, comforting. But light this pure can't enter without shattering what blocks it. It doesn't knock. It explodes. The light doesn't fit neatly into the life you had. It demands more space. It demands you. You feel it now. The divine fire moving through the wreckage. It's painful, but it's clean. It burns away the illusions, the lies, the masks. You watch your old self dissolve like ash in the wind, and for a moment, there's nothing left but emptiness. And that emptiness, terrifying, limitless, silent, is holy. This is the sacred violence of God. The way he enters is not gentle, but perfect. The destruction you fear is not cruelty. It's precision. He knows exactly where to strike, exactly which walls to break. He doesn't wound at random. Every fracture is mercy disguised as chaos. Every breaking is an act of entry. The light is not outside you anymore. It's inside, crawling through the cracks, flooding the space where the old you used to live. And though it still hurts, though you still tremble, there's something else now. A stillness beneath the pain. A small, trembling peace rising through the ruin. You realize then that what you called breaking was really opening. That the sound you feared was the sound of God breathing your name into the hollow of your chest. Part 4. When you fall apart, God enters. There's a silence that follows every storm. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of revelation. The dust still floats in the air, golden in the faint light. You sit among the ruins of what you once called your life, too tired to cry, too hollow to pray. But something inside you, something small, fragile, unexplainable, has stopped fighting. It's the first real stillness you've ever known. At first, it feels like defeat. You've lost everything you thought you needed to be whole. Your plans, your certainties, your pride. You've fallen apart so completely that even the idea of rebuilding feels absurd. And yet, within that emptiness, something begins to move. Not loud, not dramatic, just a breath, a presence. You don't recognize it at first. It doesn't announce itself as God. It doesn't come with promises or answers. It comes as a feeling, a quiet warmth in the center of your chest. The kind of warmth that doesn't ask for anything. It just is. For the first time, you realize that the silence you feared wasn't empty. It was full of him. You remember Rumi's words. The wound is where the light enters you. And now you understand. It wasn't poetry. It was a map. Every fracture, every heartbreak, every collapse was a point of entry. What you called pain was the sound of the door unlocking from the inside. You weren't being broken apart. You were being opened wide enough to be filled. When you fall apart, God doesn't come rushing in from somewhere far away. He was already there, waiting behind the walls. The breaking just made space for him to move. He doesn't need temples or rituals to enter. He needs your surrender. He needs the moment you stop pretending to hold yourself together. That's where the divine slips in, unnoticed, like dawn through a cracked window. You begin to feel it in everything. The breath, the stillness, the ache that remains. Even the pain starts to shimmer with something almost beautiful. It's not gone, but it's softer now, touched by light. You realize that what hurts the most isn't the loss itself. It's the resistance to what's being born in its place. For the first time, you stop asking for things to be fixed. You stop begging for what's gone. You stop trying to return to what you were before the breaking. Because now you see that the breaking was not a mistake. It was the method. God's love was never about protection. It was about transformation. He doesn't shelter you from the fire. He makes you the flame. You start to breathe differently. Each inhale feels like grace. Each exhale, release. The world hasn't changed. It's still cracked, still uncertain, still fragile. But now you see the cracks as pathways for light. Every imperfection has become an opening. Every scar, a window. The ruin itself begins to glow. You whisper, almost to yourself, "So this is how you enter." And the silence answers, not in words, but in warmth. You finally understand that God doesn't wait for you to be perfect. He waits for you to fall apart, because it's only then that there's room for him to fill. The fear that once ruled you begins to fade, replaced by something quieter. Not joy, not even peace, but presence. A steady awareness that you are not alone, that even here in the rubble you are being held. Rumi said, "I thought I was broken, but it was just the door being opened." And you realize that this quiet, this light, this strange, gentle stillness was what you were praying for all along. You asked for light. You got the breaking, and now you understand. They were never two different things. Part 5. The Architecture of Surrender. There is a strange peace that follows total collapse. Not because the pain has gone, but because the fight has ended. You no longer resist what is happening. You no longer demand to understand it. You simply breathe. And in that breathing, you begin to feel a new kind of order forming. Not the order of plans and control, but the quiet architecture of surrender. At first, it feels almost wrong to be calm after so much chaos. You sit among the ruins of everything you thought you needed, and instead of despair, you feel spacious, empty, but in a sacred way, like the inside of a cathedral after the crowd has gone. You realize that emptiness isn't the absence of life. It's the beginning of it. It's what God builds from. All your life, you tried to be the architect. You drew the blueprints, built the walls, filled the rooms with people and meaning and control. You prayed for God to bless the house you built, but you never imagined He might want to live in the space where there are no walls at all. Now, as you sit in the silence, you begin to understand. God doesn't want to decorate your life. He wants to inhabit it. And for that, He needs it open. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in, falling into something greater than yourself. It's not defeat. It's alignment. The moment you stop trying to hold the pieces together, the divine begins to weave them into something new, something you could never design on your own. You stop trying to rebuild the old structure because you finally understand you are not the builder. You are the space. The pain that once felt unbearable now becomes the foundation of peace. Every scar, every break, every loss has softened you. The hard edges of your ego have melted, and in their place is a tenderness that feels infinite. You no longer see life as a series of things to win or fix. You see it as something to receive. You live like open hands instead of clenched fists. Rumi said, "Give up to grace. The ocean takes care of each wave until it gets to shore." And now you know what he meant. Surrender is not drowning. It's learning to float. You stop fighting the current, and suddenly you realize it was carrying you home all along. In this surrender, there is no drama, no declarations, no grand gestures, just quiet trust. You wake in the morning and say, "Whatever comes, let it come." You stop trying to control love or time or loss. You stop begging for answers. You realize that peace was never hiding in certainty. It was hiding in letting go. The architecture of surrender is simple. It's built from breath, from silence, from faith that doesn't need proof. God doesn't build with brick and stone. He builds with trust. He builds with your willingness to stay open even when it hurts. Every time you choose to soften instead of close, a wall falls and a window opens. You start to notice the beauty in small things again. The sound of wind through broken glass, the golden light touching the dust, the rhythm of your own breathing. The world hasn't changed, but your vision has. You no longer look at what's missing. You see what's been given. And somewhere deep inside, you feel it. God's presence not as a voice, not as a force, but as space. He's not something you reach for. He's what remains when you stop reaching. He's the silence between heartbeats, the stillness between thoughts. You whisper, "Do with me what you will." And in that moment, everything aligns, not because you've found control, but because you've lost the need for it. This is the real miracle. Not that God enters your life, but that you finally stop standing in His way. And as you sit in the quiet glow of that understanding, you realize something simple and vast. You never needed to rebuild. You only needed to surrender. Part 6. Love as the hammer. Everyone speaks about love as if it were soft, as if it were the gentle touch that heals, the quiet voice that comforts, the warmth that fills the cracks. But Rumi knew better. He said, "Love is the bridge between you and everything." And what he didn't say, what you learn only when the bridge starts to shake, is that love builds the bridge by first destroying the walls. Love doesn't come to decorate your comfort. It comes to dismantle it. It doesn't ask permission. It walks straight through your defenses, wearing a crown of fire, carrying a hammer made of light. You wanted tenderness, but the divine gave you truth. You wanted calm, but love gave you collision. Because the parts of you that resist love, pride, fear, control, cannot survive its presence. They must fall. You thought love would hold you gently. Instead, it exposes you. It breaks open the armor you spent a lifetime forging. It finds the lies you built into your identity and cracks them one by one. It's not cruel. It's honest. Love's hammer strikes only what's false. But when you've built your whole self out of illusion, it feels like total destruction. The truth is, love doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to set you free. But freedom is not painless. Freedom means letting go of the parts of yourself that were never real. And the ego doesn't die quietly. It fights. It bargains. It pleads. And every time you cling to what love is trying to take away, the hammer falls again. At first, you hate it. You curse it. You call it loss, betrayal, heartbreak. You call it injustice. You ask why the things you loved were torn away. But love never explains itself. It just keeps breaking. Because love is not a feeling. It's an intelligence. It knows where to strike. It knows which fractures will lead you back to truth. Rumi said, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." And as the dust settles, you begin to understand what love takes away, it always returns transformed. The people who leave, the dreams that die, the pieces that crumble, they're not punishment. They're preparation. Love breaks the cup because it wants you to taste the ocean. There's a rhythm to it. Destruction, silence, light. Every blow of the hammer creates an opening. Every opening becomes a doorway. You start to see the beauty in the breaking. You stop asking love to be gentle and start asking it to be true, because gentleness comforts the surface, but truth frees the soul. And one day, in the middle of your surrender, you feel it. Love's hammer has stopped. Not because the work is finished, but because there's nothing left to destroy. What's left of you is real, bare, pure. You are not the broken pieces anymore. You are the space they created. You understand then why God breaks you. It's not to test your strength. It's to reveal His. Every time your heart shattered, it was being reshaped from a cage into a window. You thought love was taking from you. It was making room. Now, when love comes again, you no longer hide. You don't brace yourself for impact. You open your hands, you let it strike, and instead of fear, you feel gratitude. Because you finally see that every blow was a blessing, every fracture a form of grace. Love is not the flower. It's the flame that makes it bloom. Love is not the comfort. It's the cleansing. Love is not the whisper. It's the thunder that clears the sky. Rumi said, "I have been broken again and again until love became my only shape. And now you understand. The hammer was never your enemy. It was the hand of love, knocking softly on the walls of your heart, saying, 'Let me in.'" Part 7. The light that rebuilds. After the breaking, there is light, not the blinding, violent kind that tears through you, but a gentler one, the kind that seeps through the cracks like dawn through a shattered window. It doesn't demand attention. It just arrives, patient and steady, filling every empty space that love's hammer once carved open. You sit in the stillness and realize the light never left. It was always there, waiting for room to enter. The walls had to fall for it to breathe. You had to lose what was false to recognize what was eternal. And now, for the first time, you're not chasing peace. You are it. The rebuilding doesn't look like construction. It looks like remembering. The divine doesn't rebuild what you lost. It rebuilds you, not into who you were, but into who you were meant to be. Every moment of pain becomes part of the design. Every scar is now a beam of light in the architecture of your soul. You start to feel gratitude, not the polite kind, but the kind that trembles, the kind that feels like worship. You thank the fire that burned you, the storm that stripped you, the silence that scared you, because now you see the truth. None of it was punishment. It was all preparation. Rumi said, "Be like melting snow. Wash yourself of yourself." And now you understand. To melt is to be remade. The ego dissolves, the masks fall away, and what remains is something simple, radiant, and real. You are no longer a person trying to find God. You are a soul remembering that God was never lost. You start noticing beauty again, not as something to possess, but as something to witness. The light in the eyes of a stranger, the wind touching your face, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. All of it whispers, "I am here." Every detail of life begins to feel sacred, even the ordinary ones. Especially the ordinary ones. The light rebuilds you quietly. It doesn't erase the scars, it fills them. It doesn't remove the pain, it transforms it. What once felt like emptiness now feels like space. What once felt like loss now feels like release. The divine doesn't rebuild by restoring the past. It builds by expanding the present. You no longer fear breaking. You no longer pray for safety. Instead, you pray for truth. You ask not for the storm to pass, but for the courage to stand in the rain. Because now you know, every drop is holy. Every burn, every fall, every silence is God's way of sculpting you into something closer to light. The rebuilding isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to what you always were before fear took over. You start to see that the divine plan was never about comfort. It was about awakening, and that awakening, that clarity, is worth every fracture. You are lighter now, not because life got easier, but because you stopped carrying what was never yours. The weight of control, the armor of pride, the need for certainty, all gone. What remains is soft, transparent, strong in a way you never knew strength could be. Rumi said, "Don't turn away. Keep your gaze on the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you." And now, those bandaged places glow. They are no longer reminders of pain, but proof of transformation. You rise from the ashes not as someone who survived, but as someone reborn. You carry no anger toward what broke you, only gratitude, because without the breaking, you would never have known how to shine. And as you look at the world, cracked, imperfect, alive, you finally understand that the light that rebuilds is not outside you. It's you. You are the temple. You are the fire. You are the light that remains after everything else has fallen away. Part 8. The prayer after the fire. The world is quiet now, not because everything is fixed, but because you've stopped fighting what is. The ruins still stand around you, cracked walls, open sky, but they no longer feel like reminders of loss. They feel like freedom. You don't need to rebuild them anymore. You've become the space they were meant to hold. The fire is gone, but its warmth remains. It lives in your breath, in your eyes, in the still rhythm of your heart. You realize the breaking didn't end you. It revealed you. The pieces you thought were destroyed were only illusions, masks burned away so that your soul could breathe again. You are lighter now, simpler, infinitely more real. You don't pray the same way anymore. You don't beg. You don't plead. You don't ask for things to change. You've learned that the divine doesn't need persuasion, only openness. prayer becomes less about words and more about being. You sit in silence, and that silence is the prayer. Every heartbeat says what language never could. "Thank you," Rumi said. "I was raw, then I was cooked, then I was burned." And that's exactly what it feels like. You have passed through the stages of becoming. Raw in ignorance, cooked in effort, burned in love. And now, from the ashes, rises something that doesn't need a name. You are not who you were. You are what remains after everything false has fallen away. The world still moves. Joy and sorrow still come and go. But you no longer chase or resist them. You welcome both as guests in the same house. You understand now that even pain carries God's handwriting. Even silence carries His voice. There is no separation anymore. Every breath is communion. Every step is worship. You walk slower. You see clearer. You love differently. Not with hunger or fear, but with depth. The kind of love that doesn't need to own, only to witness. The kind that doesn't burn to consume, but to illuminate. You realize that love was never something to find. It was what you were all along. When you speak now, the words feel softer, like they've passed through light before reaching your lips. When you listen, you hear more than sounds. You hear meaning. You hear the quiet hum of the divine beneath everything ordinary. You finally understand what Rumi meant when he said, "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." You close your eyes and feel the same warmth you once feared. It doesn't threaten anymore. It blesses. It doesn't destroy. It expands. The fire that once tore you apart now lives inside you, gentle and eternal. You are not praying to the flame. You are the flame. The walls are gone. The light has entered. The space within you is vast and clear, like an open sky after the storm. And somewhere, in that infinite quiet, you whisper without words, "I understand now." There's no thunder, no revelation, no grand finale, just peace. The kind that doesn't depend on anything. The kind that simply is. And as the last ember glows inside your chest, you realize that everything you feared, the breaking, the pain, the loss, was never meant to destroy you. It was how love learned your name. Rumi said, "When I stopped praying for what I wanted and started listening, I realized I was the prayer itself. So now, when you breathe, you are praying. When you love, you are worshiping. When you live, you are remembering. And when the next fire comes, because it always does, you will no longer run. You will open your arms and whisper, 'Welcome,' because now you know. God breaks you only to enter, and once He enters, there is nothing left to fear.